All right, well, let's talk about this from our friends at Loudwire. This is 25 legendary punk and hardcore albums with no weak songs. This is from a couple years ago, but I never saw it, so I figured let's talk about it. Shout out to the good folks at Loudwire. As I've said before, I am nothing but a big fat leech on the ass of Loudwire. All I do is make terrible, terrible videos in reaction to the content that they spend so much time putting together. So shout out to Loudwire. Make sure you support them. Now, let's go down this list of 25 legendary punk and hardcore albums with no weak songs. Let's see what we think. Number 1, Bad Brains, self-titled. I know this is going to offend a lot of people. I think Bad Brains are overrated, and I'll tell you why. The vocals are a little bit rough with Bad Brains. I'll give you an example, and this is the best Bad Brains stuff. Let's check it out. The music is great. The vocals a little bit rough. Music is great though. The vocals are not good, right? The music is cool, and they were obviously super influential. That's a good point. Sometimes influential doesn't mean good. Yeah, I agree with that. You know, there's this idea that if something is influential, that it's good, and that if it's influential, you have to like it. And I don't think either of those things are true. I think there's a lot of stuff that's influential that doesn't necessarily mean that I want to listen to it, right? And I would say Bad Brains is a good example. Now, Bad Brains are good. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think that they are as good as, say, like Minor Threat, who is, you know, very influenced by Bad Brains, of course, but I think Minor Threat does this sound better than Bad Brains did. I think the Beastie Boys did this sound better than the Bad Brains did, to be honest. Certainly very influential, pioneering, nothing but respect for them. But I wouldn't agree with this one, actually. I would not agree with this one. I'm not saying they suck, to be clear. I'm not saying they suck. I think they're good. But, you know, I can't, in good conscience, say that there's no weak songs. Next, Bad Religion, No Control. Yeah, this is from 1989. Suffer was the album that really, I think, kind of put Bad Religion back on the map. Not that they were ever off the map. Let's listen to this album. It's a great one. That's right. Actually, you might know this song from, what is it, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, I think? One of the Tony Hawk games. The song You by Bad Religion. You would probably know this one. I Don't Like Fear. So you might recognize this song. Now, Bad Religion is one of these bands where, you know, if I'm being honest, I think all their songs kind of sound the same, but they all sound good. So I have no problem with that, and I think this is definitely one of their best albums. Suffer, No Control, and Generator. You could pick any of those 3 albums as their best album, and I would, you know, I would agree with you. I think all of them are great, not a bad song in any one of those. And as far as influential goes, Bad Religion 100% is the band that defined the 90s skate punk sound. Well, obviously they started in the 80s, but, you know, the sound that became very popular in the 90s, 100% that was Bad Religion. And if you doubt me, NOFX probably became sort of the flagship band in that genre. But if you doubt me, here is the song by NOFX called I Am a Huge Fan of Bad Religion, in which they discuss how much they rip off Bad Religion.
I'm a huge fan of Bad Religion. I bought Suffer, then I bought a Thesaurus. So there we have it. The legacy of Bad Religion cannot be disputed. I would agree with this one. Not a bad song on this album or that whole 3-album streak, in my opinion. Great band, great album. Black Flag, Damaged. As punk got a little bit more hardcore, Black Flag emerged as one of the key players in the genre. With Henry Rollins joining the fold, the band reached new heights on Damaged, especially the songs TV, Party, and Rise Above. Elsewhere on the disc, Six Pack and Damaged One also rank among the band's best tracks. I would agree that all those songs are great. However, Henry Rollins is what, like their 4th singer or something like that? And in my opinion, I think he was actually their worst singer. I do like this album, but Henry Rollins, like, he's not a great vocalist, you know? He's just like a loud talker. Very charismatic guy. I think he's a great frontman and a great performer, but I don't think he's a fantastic vocalist. And I actually like
the other versions of these songs better. Personally, for example, I love this guitar tone. It's such a filthy, fucked up guitar tone. Des Cadena, I think, is the one in this, right? I prefer these versions. Love this guitar tone. I got this album probably 30 years ago, I think, 91. Yeah, probably 1990, 91. I would say if I was going to pick one Black Flag album, it would be this one. I actually like everything that they've done. Like the later stuff with Henry Rollins is all weird and sludgy and stuff. And I like it, but it's not exactly the most listenable stuff in the world. I would say if I was going to pick a Black Flag album that's no skips, it would be this one. The first 4 years, which collects all their early stuff. The Nervous Breakdown and Six Pack 7 inches, the Louie Louie 7 inch, and the Jealous Again EP. That's what I would pick. But, I mean, I don't think there's any bad songs on Damaged. Just if I'm going to be a pedantic nerd about it, which is what we're here to do, right? The Clash, London Calling. You know, to be honest, I'll tell you guys a secret. I do not really care for The Clash, and I have never owned this album. I have heard many of these songs, but I have never owned this album. I want to see, there is one Clash song that I really like, and I don't know if it's on this album. Guns of Brixton is the song that I like. It is on London Calling. Okay. I like this song a lot. I do think The Clash is a great band. Not my cup of tea, but I do think they are a great band. Great at what they do. Is it too English? I don't know. Just when I first heard The Clash was, I don't know, 91, 92, something like that. And all I wanted to hear was DRI and The Accused and Sepultura and Gorilla Biscuits. I did not want to hear like this, you know, British people trying to play reggae type stuff. And I can appreciate it now, like as an adult with like more broad taste. But back then I just wanted to hear hardcore. I didn't want to hear this, although I did like this song. It's kind of dubby, you know? So I will excuse myself from having an opinion on this one. Everybody loves The Clash and says this is like the best album of all time. They're probably right. I have never owned it, so I will excuse myself from this conversation. That's what I will say. The Damned. New Rose is the song that I know from this album. This is another one of these bands that I'm a little bit too young for this band. I've never owned this album either, but I do know this song. Let's check it out. I do like this song. This is like when punk was almost like just fast rock and roll. You know what I mean? This is from like what? I think this is from like 1977. It's Ed Sheeran on drums. That's right. Ed Sheeran just going crazy on the drums. Holy shit. I had no idea. This is the ultimate supergroup. Ed Sheeran on drums, Chris Motionless on vocals. This is amazing. How did I never know that they did a collab? This is incredible. That's right. You can really hear how MGK influenced them. It's true. I hope MGK is on this list. If Tickets to My Downfall is not on this list, I'm going to throw myself on a sword. That's it. At least we can hear the influence of MGK on this. But in all seriousness, The Damned is one of those bands that I'm just a little bit too young for them. Again, I've never owned this album, but I do know these songs. And I think you can't really go backwards. You know what I mean? Like, if you hear this after you've listened to DRI and the Circle Jerks, you can't really go backwards. At least I can't. And I'm not saying that means that DRI and MDC and the Circle Jerks are better. It's just they were newer and they'd sort of like evolved things a little bit. After you've listened to Millions of Dead Cops, it's kind of hard to go back to The Damned. At least it was for me. So, you know, I know there's going to be people in the comments on this that are angry at me for this, but I will say The Damned is not for me, but I do think they have great songwriting. So I'll say, you know, I have no problem with this being on the list. Dead Kennedys, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables. Almost from the moment they arrived on the scene, Dead Kennedys frontman Jello Biafra became one of punk's respected voices. Songs like Holiday in Cambodia, California Uber Alles, and Kill the Poor still have that sting and certain something that helps make this album a classic. I would agree with that for sure. It is definitely a classic. Here's the problem though. I know every time I criticize the Dead Kennedys, people get really angry at me. I agree with this. Jello was a great frontman. I loved them in my youth. Watching Jello takes now, yikes. I agree with this too. East Bay Ray. I like how you spelled it Bay. Like how they called people Bay in 2015. East Bay Ray might be the best guitarist in early hardcore scene. These riffs are actually crazy and the drummer rips. Rest in peace to Darren from Dead Kennedys. I agree with all of that. However, the vocals are quite rough. I think this is right. The instrumentals are near untouchable, but Jello's voice is at the least an acquired taste. The music is great. Jello's vocals are just, it's a little rough. My wife never heard any of this stuff. I played this for her and she was like, is this like a joke? It sounds like he's the guy from like a haunted house. Is this what all their songs sound like? And I was like, yeah, no, that's his voice. And she was like, but he's not even singing. He's just like talking like he's the guy from some 1950s horror movie. I actually don't think this is one of their best songs. My favorite Dead Kennedys song is In Sight. Musically, this is my favorite Dead Kennedys song. Who's that kid in the back of the room? Who's that kid in the back of the room? The soundtrack to the Munsters, yes. Yeah, imagine MGK singing, exactly. Imagine how much better the Dead Kennedys would sound with MGK on vocals. And also, Jello Biafra, if you happen to be listening, one thing I will say about Jello, although I find him to be a very irritating, off-putting person, he's very smart, and I think he was one of the first people to call the punk scene on its bullshit. Songs like Anarchy for Sale and Chicken Shit Conformist. He was one of the first people to call out the punk scene for being a bunch of basically chicken shit conformists. Consider this, Jello, just consider this. Would you consider doing a song with MGK? Just imagine how much that would make the entire punk scene's heads explode. Now, with that being said, I won't object to them being on this list. I personally think that his vocals are a little bit rough, but they are certainly a classic band. That's right. He called out the woke people before woke people existed. He did. Jello was one of the first. Descendants, Milo Goes to College. The SoCal pop punk blueprinters get right to the point with these short, aggressive tracks. Milo Goes to College blends hardcore blasts with melodic mastery and yields underdog anthems like I'm Not a Loser, My Age, Parents, and I'm Not a Punk. Now, this is going to be another controversial opinion. I love this album. I think it's great. But I think that I Don't Want to Grow Up is the best Descendants album. This one is great. Don't get me wrong. I love the Descendants. Everything they did with the original lineup before they broke up, I think is great. I have no objection to this album being on the list. I don't think there's a bad song on it. Descendants 100% are the band that invented pop punk as we know it. If you ask the guys from Blink, they will say that all they were doing is ripping off the Descendants. They've literally said that themselves. So I would say, it's not controversial to say Descendants invented pop punk. This one is more of like a hardcore album, I would say. And it's great. But I would say that I Don't Want to Grow Up is the one that I would choose, just because it's a little bit more polished and a little bit more pop. Somebody asked about Fear. Fear, the record, faster than you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fear had already rocked you with their standout 1982 disc, The Record, with no songs clocking in over 3 minutes. The album flies by. Okay, I have always thought of Fear as being almost like one of the original butt rock bands. I've never liked Fear. I always disliked his vocalist. It's a little too butt rock for me. I don't dislike them. Yeah, they're very un-PC, that's for sure. Bordering on butt rock, oi, exactly. It's in Tony Hawk, one of the Tony Hawk games. And Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers was in Fear for a while too. Sounds like Foo Fighters. Does sound like Foo Fighters, doesn't it? Man, I've never thought about this, but this really does sound like the Foo Fighters. My whole world just got turned upside down because Foo Fighters just sound like Fear with a better singer. I would almost say that Fear sort of established the template for punk and hardcore bands to turn into really awful hard rock bands to me. So I would not put that on the list. I think they're okay. I certainly wouldn't put them on this list of great albums, personally. The Germs, one of punk's ultimate one and done bands. The Germs full-length GI is stellar from beginning to end. Let's listen to the Germs. I don't know. I mean, Germs are another one of these bands that are certainly very, legendary and important. But I don't know if I would say that they're great, A very important band for sure. No question about that. And then there's stuff like this. This is rough. This stuff. respect to the Germs. Legendary band, no question about it. Super important. Is it actually good? I don't know. I would put the Adolescents or DI or even like Social Distortion, any of those like Orange County bands on the list. Any band that Rick Agnew is in, I would put on this list instead of the Germs. Very influential, highly respected for good reason, but does it hold up as an example of great music? I don't know that I would say that it does. Great artwork also. Gloss. Okay, here's some hipster core. The 2010s punk revolution came with lined lips and spiked bats. Gloss only released 2 EPs, but the weight of these records shook punk to its foundation, while waving the flag for trans activism, an area punk had not yet covered to this degree. That's true. That's true. I would say that this definitely put trans people on the map in punk in a way that hadn't been done before. I totally agree with that, which is a good thing. I haven't listened to this band since they came out. Let's listen to it. I remember their music being kind of only okay, but let's listen and see. Yeah, Gloss was the biggest thing in punk for 1 year and then dipped out. Yes. 2015, okay. Girls living outside society's shit. Okay, I remember. Yeah, I actually think this band is good. I think they're good. Yeah, it's D-Beat, basically. Yes, it's D-Beat. I actually think this band is pretty good. So I guess it's a question to me of like, do we include this band because of their music or because of kind of their lyrics and I guess you could say historical significance? If it's just about their music, I have heard this literally 1,000 times before, and that's not a bad thing. It's well done, but there's like a zillion D-Beat bands that I, have heard over, the years that basically sound exactly like this. But, if we're including them as the band that, in 2015, the whole like trans activism thing was very new territory. And I do think they legitimately made an impact on that front. So if we're including them because of that, I would say that's valid. If we're judging it based on just the music, I wouldn't pick it. There's quite a few other albums that I would choose to put on this list on a purely musical basis, but they did legitimately make a big impact, even though they were only around for like a year or two. They definitely did make an impact. Guttermouth, Friendly People. Oh boy, the exact opposite. Gloss is the exact opposite of Guttermouth. So Gloss is basically like very woke D-Beat, and Guttermouth is very unwoke shit tier pop punk, I guess. Guttermouth's a tough one because I love this band, but they're objectively fucking awful. Like, they are fucking awful. I don't want to get canceled, but I'm just going to play this song for you guys with the qualifier that I do not necessarily endorse these lyrics. I will just say this. From 1994, think about how relevant these lyrics still are. Again, I don't want to get canceled, so I'm not vouching for these lyrics. I'm just saying. Don't cancel me. I non-ironically like this song, Perfect World. This song's pretty good. Nacho cheese and anarchy. Boy, that sure sounds good to me. Every kind of drug is free in the new But they're terrible. I love this band because they're absolutely awful, but there is no world in which they belong on this list of like 25 great albums with no weak songs. Guttermouth is one of the worst bands of all time, in the best way. Next on the list, the Meanies. I vaguely remember this band. Says obscure. Let's listen to them. We'll see. This is 10% Weird by the Meanies. This sounds fine to me. I don't know if I would say there's anything here that's like blowing me away. Yeah, I don't know. Based on what I'm hearing here, I would say this band probably does not belong on the list. What do you guys think? Tough. I don't know if I would say dog shit, but I would say mid. Minor Threat, complete discography. I completely agree with this. They were a band for 3 years, I think. They recorded 2 7-inches and a 12-inch, put it all together on this discography. Every single goddamn song on this album is incredible. Like, I would say there is probably no other band with a stronger batting average than this. Every single song they did was fucking great. Still stands up to this day. Great songwriting, great performances. Like, this is a perfect album. It is an absolute 10. There is no way around it. It's a 10. It's a 10. Anybody who disagrees, anybody that says they like punk and doesn't like Minor Threat, as the internet's busiest metal elitist, I declare them kicked out of the scene. If you like punk and you're not into Minor Threat, you're kicked out of the scene. I hate you if you don't like this album. Me too. I also hate you if you don't like this album. And Minutemen, Double Nickels on the Dime, an 81-minute punk album with 4 sides, 45 songs, and traces of country and jazz. Boy, you know, the Minutemen are a tough one. I don't know if I... Well, let's listen to the Minutemen. You make up your own mind what you think. It's kind of like Ren and Stimpy music. You tell me what you think of this. It's Dance Kevin Dance. That's all it is. It's Dance Kevin Dance. Oh, they did the Jackass theme? I didn't know that. Rest in peace to D. Boone. Unfortunately died. Minutemen are one of these bands where I wouldn't choose to listen to them, but I respect them a lot. I think it's really cool, like, that they did such experimental, weird shit. I have a ton of respect for it, but would I listen to it? I can't say that I would. You know what I mean? I can't say I would put this on and listen to it. You know? Yeah, so with all due respect to them, I have a tremendous amount of respect for them. I wouldn't put them on this list. NOFX, Punk and Drublic, absolutely agree with this. This is one of the best punk albums of all time. I think as far as the 90s like 90s punk in general, I would say this is the most definitive 90s punk album, in my opinion. I know obviously other people are going to say The Offspring or Green Day, and those were certainly more commercially successful. But as far as like 90s punk goes, to me, I think of skate punk and like the Epitaph, Fat Records kind of scene as being the definition of 90s punk. And there's no question the NOFX, Punk and Drublic is the definitive album in that scene. Like, hands down, period. There is no debate about that. Oh, Propaganda. Ugh. Not many bands released their best album nearly 3 decades into their... Propaganda to me is just like, it's NOFX for fucking nerds. Like, NOFX or Pennywise is bro punk, right? It's like your uncle from Huntington Beach that wears black fly sunglasses and Dickies shorts, drinks beer on his front porch. Propaganda is like NPR Subaru punk for people with $90,000 in student debt because they got some fucking useless degree in some humanities field where, you know, they can't do anything with it. So they're like an adjunct professor for $15 an hour, even though they have a master's degree. And Propaganda is their favorite band. Well, they go fucking drive the Subaru down to the local brewery to get an IPA. That's the Propaganda fan base. The band's okay. They're fine, but they certainly don't belong on this list. It's hipster shit. All right, Ramones, Rocket to Russia. Yes, of course, obviously. You got to have the Ramones on this list. This is their best album. I mean, do I need to explain to anybody why the Ramones are on this list? Clearly, some of the best punk songwriters of all time to this day. These songs still hold up. So simple, so good, so catchy, so many hooks. Yeah, it's the fucking Ramones. Like, of course, like, if they're not on this list, there's something wrong with it. Rancid and Out Come the Wolves. Yeah, I would definitely include this album on the list as well. It's an incredible album. Obviously, the cover you can see is sort of a reference to Minor Threat. This is their best album, in my opinion. I think Tim Armstrong is the best songwriter in all of punk. And I know whenever I say that, you know, people get mad at me and they say Joe Strummer, whoever else. I think Tim Armstrong is the best songwriter in punk. And I say that not only because Rancid has so many great songs, but he also wrote for like Pink. And I think he wrote a bunch of the Distillers songs too. Yeah, he wrote all the Operation Ivy songs as well. I mean, he's fucking incredible. Matt Freeman is an incredible bassist. Nothing but respect for Rancid. One of the best bands of all time. Definitely deserves even more respect than they get. Okay, Refused, The Shape of Punk to Come. Interesting story behind this album. Basically, to make a long story short, they started out as kind of a Victory Records, you know, moshcore band, kind of trying to be Snapcase and Earth Crisis. And then they became sort of like, you know, hipster, like screamo stuff on this album. And nobody really liked it at the time. But then after it came out, a couple years later, people started to love it and it became super influential. And, there's all these bands like The Used and stuff like that. Every band under the sun, from The Used to AFI to Metallica to Linkin Park, has listed this album as an influence. It's not for me. It's a little too hipster for me. And I had already heard a lot of the San Diego bands that they were influenced by, like Antioch Arrow and stuff like that. I think they're a good band, for sure. And I won't argue with this album being on the list. I wouldn't personally put it on the list. I like The Used better than I like Refused. Let's put it that way. But they are objectively, very influential, good band. It wouldn't be on my list of albums like this, but it's a good band. Nevermind the Bollocks by the Sex Pistols. This is another one of these albums that people have sort of retconned as being bad. It's fucking great. This album is fucking incredible. This album's a 10. I don't know why people have sort of decided that Sex Pistols suck. They're fucking great. This album is incredible. I don't get it. It's like great songwriting. The guitars on it are awesome. Obviously Johnny Rotten's vocals are what they are, but like this album's fucking incredible. I do not understand. If you don't like this album, you're a poser. The end. The end. That's all there is to it. If you don't like this album, you are a poser. It's confirmed. That's the official word. Hello? Yep. Barry. Yeah. No, sorry. It's Obama, guys. Okay. Yeah. No, listen. I gotta go. Okay. Listen. Obama just called me. He just wanted to let everyone know that he agrees. 10 out of 10 classic album. If you don't like it, you are a poser. Sick of It All, Built to Last. I love Sick of It All. I do not personally like this album. This album's a little bit too melancholy and like dark and stuff for me. It's not my favorite one. My favorite Sick of It All stuff is their 7-inch. I like their 7-inch when they were still like really fast and thrashy. This song, Rat Pack, is maybe my favorite Sick of It All song. When they were still like thrash. Yeah, it's not the best Sick of It All record to showcase. This song's 45 seconds long. The drummer for this band, Armand Majidi, was in another band called NYC Mayhem. Listen to how fucking brutal this is. This is from 1985. They were in high school. Listen to how brutal this is. 1985, listen to this shit. I love like how blasting and fast it was. NYC Mayhem was great. Okay, I love Sick of It All. Great band. That's not the album I would choose personally. Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power. I never liked Iggy and the Stooges. I guess respect, one of these like very influential kind of, 70s proto-punk bands. Never really did much for me, but everybody loves them. So, I guess they should be on the list. Strike Anywhere. Good band. If I only had to choose 25 punk albums, I certainly wouldn't include Strike Anywhere on that list. They're cool guys, good band, but I certainly would not include Strike Anywhere on this list personally. Suicidal Tendencies, self-titled album. Yes, absolutely. Incredible fucking album, incredible band. Their first several albums were amazing. One of the very first bands to like kind of combine metal and hardcore. Incredible artwork, incredible lyrics, like great songs. 10 out of 10, definitely belongs on this list. X, all right. I never really liked X. Again, I didn't hear X until I was already into like, Suicidal Tendencies, DRI, Circle Jerks, stuff like that. So when I heard X, I was like, oh, this just sounds like, artsy rock to me. Maybe if I was a few years older, maybe I would have got it. I don't know. I never really got X. And that's it. That is their list of the 25 legendary punk and hardcore albums with no weak songs, courtesy of the folks at Loudwire. A couple little things I might disagree with here and there, but hey, that's gonna be the case with any list like this. They got a lot of good stuff on there. No Misfits is weird. Like, to have Strike Anywhere on there and not the Misfits is kind of weird to me. But the real question is, as Brett brought up in the chat, where's MGK on this list? Where is MGK? This list is trash. Tickets to My Downfall should have been items number 1 through 25. This list is garbage without the godfather of punk, MGK. I've had it with Loudwire. You people are clowns. If you don't have MGK on this list, you know nothing about punk. I'm through with you people. This is disgusting. Punk was born with and it will die with MGK. God damn it. And I'll go to my grave believing that. That's all I have to say about it. I hate you if you don't like this album. Me too.